Hi, I'm Ali, and this is my review of the Hoka Clifton 10. So to be completely and utterly transparent, I have really struggled to get on with Hoka road running shoes over the past few years. Trail running shoes I absolutely love. The Hoka Speedgoat 6 I probably logged more miles in last year than any other trail running shoe. But on the road, things have been tricky, and particularly the Clifton. So the Clifton is Hoka's staple daily trainer, and it's designed to provide a cushioned and plush ride, but not quite as plush as something like the max cushioned Bondi 9. Now, I couldn't actually run more than 10 kilometers in the Clifton 8 or the Clifton 9, which I've got here, sort of where the upper meets the midsole, just round about here. Every single time I would get quite a lot of irritation. And my feet aren't particularly wide. I'd say I've probably got standard to wide-ish feet, but I think a lot of Hoka shoes in the past have fit quite narrow, particularly in the forefoot. And I know I'm not alone in encountering sort of this discomfort around the edges. But then if we rewind to January, I actually spoke with the design team at Hoka, and they said that they had really refined the fit of the Bondi 9 and the Clifton 10, this guy here, to make it a lot more accommodating for several more runners. So it's clear that they knew they had this sort of issue going on. And actually, even though the Bondi 9 wasn't perhaps quite to my taste in terms of what I would choose in a running shoe, I couldn't really fault it in terms of fit. Like, it's definitely the sort of shoe that you can log several miles in without getting any discomfort. So then when this guy arrived on my desk a few weeks ago, I was pretty excited to try it out. So what is new in the Clifton 10? Well, quite a lot to be honest, even though it may not look like it from the outside. This is the 10th anniversary edition of the Clifton, so things have been transformed quite a lot. So let's start off with the fit, because I've already spoken a little bit about that already. Hoka have basically added a lot more width to the entire length of the shoe to make it a lot more accommodating for several more runners. So particularly in the forefoot here and into the midfoot, I would say it's now what you would expect from a standard running shoe rather than sort of leaning towards the narrower end of the spectrum. We have also got a refined heel for improved comfort, and we've also got a new mesh jacquard upper. Then underfoot, we have got an updated midsole geometry and an increase in the stack height. There's now about 42 millimeters in the heel and 34 millimeters in the forefoot, which means the heel to toe drop is now 8 millimeters, which is quite an update because the last few iterations and most of Hoka's running shoes are around a 5 millimeter drop. Okay, so in terms of fit, I wear a 8.5 UK in most of my running shoes, but I've previously found because of sort of the narrow nature of Hoka's running shoes, I've had to wear a UK 9 in most of them. Hoka this time around actually advised sizing down in the Clifton 10 and sent me a UK 10. Now, if I'm being honest, I've had absolutely no issues with rubbing with this shoe, which is fantastic. But I'd say in terms of sort of the lengthwise in the toe box, I've got around a 3/4 thumb rather than a whole thumb. So I think if I'd have chosen this myself, I probably would have just opted for my standard UK 8.5. Then in terms of width, like I've said, a lot more accommodating in the forefoot and the midfoot. The new upper provides an excellent hold, really sort of wraps around the midfoot to provide a secure lockdown. The tongue is nicely padded, and so is the heel counter. And lacing system, again, no real faults with it. Ties up really well to create a good hold. No need to sort of use any fancy lacing systems here. Classic double knot will do nicely. Don't come undone on the run. So overall, things looking good so far. Okay, so moving on to how the shoe performs on the run. The midsole is made from compression molded EVA foam, so it's fairly lightweight and nicely cushioned. I'd probably describe the ride as balanced. So it's not overly squishy, but it's not overly firm either. It's just sort of this nice middle ground that makes cruising around for quite long distances really comfortable. You've also got Hoka's signature Meta Rocker that again helps to create a really smooth ride. And I'd actually say that despite the fact that we've gone from a 5 millimeter drop to an 8 millimeter drop, it's not hugely noticeable. I mean, I'm actually someone who prefers a slightly higher drop as it is, but I think if you're someone who sort of goes for that mid-range drop, you won't really notice an awful lot of change from this, which is really good news. In terms of energy return, I wouldn't say it's got quite as much bounce as something like the Hoka Skyflow or even the Hoka Bondi 9. So both of those shoes use Hoka's supercritical foam, whereas as I've said, this one uses compression molded EVA foam. I have tried some tempo efforts in this shoe and it's not that bad, it's doable, but I would say that it's most at home as sort of your staple daily trainer for those easy miles and also long runs. I've clocked up a lot of long runs in this shoe so far, currently ultra marathon training for an 100k in a few weeks time, and provide lots of protection for sort of the road running sections that I'm doing. All in all, I'd say the ride is sort of just nice. Like, it's not gonna blow you away, but I don't think every trainer or shoe has to, and I think that's particularly the case for a daily trainer. Sometimes what you want is just a nice balanced, consistent ride, and I'd say that is probably what you're getting from the Hoka Clifton. A couple of other things to note are the outsole. So you've got high abrasion rubber in key wear areas, ever so slightly more than the Hoka Clifton 9, and so far I've had no issues with these slipping or sliding in wet conditions. And in terms of the price, the Hoka Clifton 10 retails for £140, which I don't think is awful for a daily trainer, but that is a £10 price increase on the previous iteration. I'd also say sort of, if you look at competitors, you've got the Saucony Ride 18 for 130, you've got Asics Nova Blast 5 for 135. So I would more put the Clifton in a pegging with those shoes and maybe go back to the original price range. I think sort of for £140, you're looking at something like the New Balance Rebel version 4, which has perhaps got a little bit more bounce and snap to it than something like the Clifton has, but overall still not really that bad for a daily trainer that will last you. So overall then, I personally feel like the Clifton 10 is a real huge turning point for me in sort of Hoka's road running offering. It's still got that nice balanced, forgiving ride that I think fans of the previous iterations are going to enjoy the fact that it's still here in this iteration, but it now has a much more accommodating fit that I think just makes this more accessible to sort of runners with different foot types. It is also available in a wide and an extra wide offering if you are someone with wider feet. It's not the liveliest shoe out there either, but I think if you're just looking for something that can handle easy miles and long runs in comfort, this is a really solid bet, and it's actually sort of a shoe that I can see myself, maybe for the first time with Hoka, actually reaching for and wanting to lace up. Thanks for watching. Let us know what you think of the updates to the Clifton in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more gear reviews from Runner's World.